Hi guys. Denise mentioned that I started with an architecture degree. I actually never completed my degree. So, um, so that's good news for those of you who don't intend to complete. But anyway, I started actually all of this when I was 25. And if you want to do any calculations, I am 39 this year. Yeah. Wow. Yes, I heard that. Yes, so I'm 39 this year. I'm not that old, not that young, mid-range. But anyway, if you ask me when I was 18 where I think I would end up, I wouldn't have been able to tell you at all. When I was 18, I think I was quite typical among most Singaporeans. I didn't actually think very hard about what I wanted to do. I was just quite happy to just go with whatever people wanted me to do. Um, I didn't want to actually spend too much time telling my story because I actually have done that quite a few times on a public platform. So if you're interested in finding out more about my story, you can actually watch my very first TED Talk on that. So I wanted to talk about other things tonight. This was the first TED Talk I gave and it was 2012. And in it, I shared quite a bit about what were the biggest misconceptions people had about what it takes to live your dream life. I felt many people misunderstood that dreams only happen to a certain type of people, right? The biggest sharing I made at that event was about how the path to a dream life, right, is not about making this one big cosmic choice. That means if you don't have that one big cosmic choice or you screwed up that one big choice, that's it. You don't have any more hope in life. But actually, a good life is, or the life that you really, really want most to have is the result of many, many, many small-looking, insignificant seeming choices that you made consistently in one very big direction that you believed in. And as a result of the talk I gave, subsequently, every time I spoke in public, to a young audience especially, this was one of the big questions that I'll always get on the floor from young people. And actually, I suspect quite a few middle-aged and old people have also asked themselves this question retrospectively. Should I follow my passions? Or should I just do the very, very practical thing and just pursue whatever opportunity I have right in front of me? Right? Are passions worth following? So it's a great question. And actually, if you just put in follow your passion, right, into Google, and if you click on the images tab, you'll see a lot of pictures like this. I mean, since the millennium, since like the year 2000, right, we have been consistently telling young people like opportunities are there all for you. You just have to follow your passion, just do what you do, follow it, dream it, live it, and then you're going to get there. And it's interesting because if you actually click on the web tab, what you'll see is in the past 2 to 3 years, there have been article after article coming out that are actually saying, don't follow your passion. Please don't follow your passion, right? And I want to bring you to the first article up here where Steve Jobs himself said, like, please don't follow your passion. So why has there been such a backlash to this follow your passion thing? Well, I read the articles, and to save you some trouble from Googling, I'll sum up the 4 big reasons that they said so, right? One of the first reasons that these writers will say is don't follow your passion, right? Because your passion keeps changing all of the time. Like one moment you're passionate about this, next moment you're passionate about that. Like, oh, don't follow it. You just go like all over the area, right? And the second big reason, right, that they'll say don't follow your passion is nobody wants to tell you this, but the thing that you're passionate about, you're actually going bad at it, right? And nobody wants to tell it to you in your face, but you suck, right? And because you're so bad at it, it results in number 3, right? Nobody wants to pay for what you suck at. You may love it, but you're bad at it, right? So how are you going to make a living from it? And that leads up to reason 4, where they say, isn't following your passion just a little bit selfish? Follow your passion, then your family what? Huh? Then aren't you throwing away a lot of other practical good things as well? Now, all the people who wrote these articles, they are not stupid people. They are not non-passionate people. And actually, it makes a lot of sense what they say. But the problem with telling people don't follow your passion is we all kind of want to just chase after the butterfly of our dreams. We do, right? And this picture, while it's very funny, right, it doesn't actually help us deal with the conflict that we feel in our heart, that you can tell me all you want, don't follow my passion. But the fact is, I still feel for it. What am I supposed to do then? So, my take is, I don't think follow your passion is bad advice. I think it's terrible as standalone advice. That means if you make follow your passion your one and only mantra, without any other mantras, yes, you may get yourself in trouble for all of those good reasons that the people said, right? But to reject it at the same time and say follow your passion is complete nonsense, I think you'll destroy yourself. You will, right? It is not entirely off to say follow your passion. I think what we do need is maybe a more profound understanding of what passion actually means. So let's put some distinction down to this. There's a big difference between passion with a small p and passion with a great capital P to it, right? And you can hear it in the difference in the way people talk about it. So there's a big difference in hearing someone say, oh, you know, I really love playing the drums. Every Saturday I just get such a big kick out of it, right? And it's just like, oh, this is so wonderful. And you hear someone saying this, when I play the drums, it sounds so stupid, but I feel alive. It's just a part of me, and I don't really want to stop. The difference between the two people who say that is stakes. For the person who said like, oh, I love drumming, it's so fun every Saturday, that kind of thing, right? When you listen to the emotion and how they say it, the stakes are not that high. That means if you tell this person, don't go for drumming, give it up, do something else, it's not that big a deal. But if you tell this other person, the one who just confessed to you that when he plays the drums, he feels alive, you tell him, please don't do it, you're essentially telling him to kill a part of who they think they are. The difference is identity, right? And you know it for yourself. There are some things that you describe for yourself that like, I like baking, I like swimming, I like doing all of these things, right? And if I tell you to stop doing these things, it's like, I'm not happy, but okay, give it up, not a big deal. If there are some things I tell you, give it up. And those are the things sometimes you don't even dare tell someone else you really deeply love it, or you care about it. It feels almost like very, very vulnerable to tell someone how much you actually love doing this. Then that is actually your genuine big P passion. It is the why, you're one of your biggest whys of why you have been put on earth. You feel it. You don't dare tell someone because it makes you sound like very like, ooh, you know. But you know it. You know this is why you can get up every day. You know this is why you feel happy. You know this is why, this is your big why. But what we do need to tell people is, if you want to follow this big why passion with a capital P, you need to understand something not so nice about it. Following your passion is to follow a very, very special type of suffering. You want to follow your passion? Be prepared to walk into a very special kind of suffering. And that shouldn't surprise you, because at the root word, right, the root Latin word for passion is to suffer. It's something we don't know about. But I can bet you, some of you are giggling around in the room already, because if you are someone who has tried following your passion with a big P, you know what I mean. There are some days where it kills you and you wonder, was I right to have followed this? Should I have done this? Because it's so painful some days. Now, why is it so painful? Some of you may have watched this movie from 2014 called Whiplash, right? It wasn't like a huge hit, so it's not surprising to me that many haven't watched it. But in Whiplash, right, you actually see this young man who is extremely in deep passion about playing drums. He's completely obsessed with it. But what you see is he's so incredibly driven to be great at drums, right? That he subjects himself to a teacher, a drum teacher, who is even more passionate about drums. And that drum teacher is so passionate that that drum teacher just really, really like tortures and scolds every single student he comes across that has no passion. And the movie is very dysfunctional. It shows you passion at its most destructive and most negative, right? But it also shows a certain truth, right? That drum teacher was so incredibly driven, right? And he drove his students that way because he believed that if you don't follow your passion, right, then how on earth would the world ever see the full depth and the full breadth of everything that you can bring into the world? In your passions are locked every single possibility that the world needs to see. The possibilities of change, the possibilities of good, the possibilities of beauty, the possibilities of everything that everyone longs to see is locked within our passions. And if you choose not to follow it, you are like doing yourself a great injustice, right? So, you see, one of the truths about following your passion is a lot of us choose not to follow it because we have a vague idea of how it sounds nice, I would love to do it, but yes, I'm guessing it's going to be quite heartbreaking. See, a lot of us want the picture of success. A lot of us want the picture of what following your passion looks like. This is a newspaper picture of us in our lovely, naive 20s. This is us in our 20s, right? And what you see in the picture is, oh, bright, young, happy people pursuing their dreams and passions. How lovely. I also want to be like that. And that is a picture of the truth. It is one side of the truth. We were happy, we were hopeful, a bit naive in our grins, but that's true. But what is also true is what's not shown in this picture. What's not shown in this picture is how hard some of the moments were, and how there were betrayals, there were losses, there are still losses, right? There are broken relationships. There are all kinds of things that you have to go through if you follow your passion, right? So there's a lot that we don't see in all of these portraits of, like, you know, whenever you go to a talk and then you see someone like talking about how they did this and they did that, but they seldom tell you about the nasty side of it. The nasty side exists. Nobody likes to hear about it, but it exists, right? So when you follow your passion, right, you're forced to confront this thing about yourself. Every single one of you in this room, every single human being, right? I know this to be true. All of us have a certain story of life, right? And that story is made up of two very, very big narratives. One is what we believe about the way things should be, or the way things could be. And we also have another set of stories called the way we believe things are. And if you choose to follow your passion, whatever that may be, right, you will realize that there is a gap. There is a profound gap between your story of how things should be and your story of how things are. And we all long for the day when those two stories collide and come together. But the trouble is, the deeper and more passionate you feel about things, the greater is the gap. If you follow your passion, if you choose to follow your passion, you are choosing actually to widen that gap all the time. And the more passionate you feel about it, the wider the gap grows. Right? And the tough part is, the greater the gap, the greater is your suffering. So nobody likes to be in this space. Not one of us. So all of us choose to mitigate this suffering in one of two ways. Okay, very broadly speaking, you are going to choose either one way or another way. Okay, I'll leave it for you to think about which one you are in. So, some of us, when we see this big gap, this is what we'll do. All right, no point following this passion thing. Let's just put it aside. It's too painful. Okay, I am going to just take my story of how things should be and I'm going to slam it all the way down to the way things are, because that's how things are. That's how things are. Let's not talk about should be anymore, right? And if you are in this space, if this is how you've chosen to handle life, right? Let's artificially close the gap and pretend ideals don't exist. Then these are the emotions you will tend to feel on a day-to-day basis. Tend to feel. And by the way, I need to say this. There is no right or wrong emotions. When I put this up there, it's not about some emotions are positive, some emotions are negative. Emotions are just what you feel. So if this is more your style, these are the emotions you will feel. You will feel cynicism, you will feel more fear, you will feel more regret, you will also feel peace. Now, I know most of you will think these are negative and this is positive, so I should not feel this and I should feel this. It's not about that. All of these are healthy things to feel, and you will feel it if this is your tendency. Okay? So, your concern should be, if you live in here for so long, that means every day you never even let your ideals have a chance to open up the gap again. Every day you're just trying to live like that, close the gap, close the gap, close the gap. Then what? Then it's no longer just an emotion that you feel, but it becomes a permanent mood that you live in. It becomes an emotional habit. And when any of these emotions become your habit, then what happens is you'll move into an extreme and dysfunctional version of these emotions, which is apathy. Peace and stability sounds like it's a very good emotion to have. But if you live like that and you are in permanent peace and stability can sound like this. Why bother to do anything? Ayo, get angry for what? It's like that. Things are like that. Things won't change. Don't need to work so hard lah, okay? Peace, in its most extreme form, can be dysfunctional as well. And there are some things that we shouldn't be peaceful and stable about. Some things need us to feel a different feeling. Now, let's talk about the other group of people, right? There's also another group of us. Our tendency is, there's this gap. What gap? What gap? Let's just take reality and push it all the way up there, right? You probably love going to Anthony Robbins seminars, and like you love reading self-help books, and you're going like, come on, it's eyes on the prize, reach for the stars, go for gold, come on, you know? And if that is your tendency, you will super annoy the other group, right? But if that is your tendency, these are the emotions you will tend to feel on a day-to-day basis. You will feel ambition, you will feel wonder, you will feel hope, you will feel enthusiasm. Now, I know some of you are assuming this group is better than the other group. Again, it's not. Take emotions as just neutral things you feel. They will also feel anger, and anger is not a negative thing to feel, right? You will feel all of these things. Anger is, things shouldn't be like that. We should be fighting for change. We should be helping the poor. How dare we treat people like this? Some things need anger. Now, these emotions, again, only be concerned if you live so permanently in these emotions, you don't even allow like the story of reality to intrude in you. You have been around people like that, right? And when you are with them, you will know that they are in the extreme version of these emotions. The extreme version of enthusiasm and the extreme version of hope is dysfunctional as well. That extreme version is called delusion, right? You can't be so permanently hopeful, right, that nobody can come to you and say, there is a real problem. We have to talk about the problem. Contempt. Contempt is when you're so up in your story of should be that you look down on anyone who even tries to bring up reality to you. Contempt is different from anger. Contempt is when you look at someone and think you are less than me. You are not as good as me. In our experience, what we see is that the people who create the best results for themselves and for the people around them are the people who choose to own this gap. They choose to own the gap. What it means is they choose to acknowledge, yes, there is a story of how I think I should be. There is a story of how I think society should be. But there is also a story of how I am. There is also a story of how society really is. And both stories are true. And they are in tension. And I will admit to that tension, and I will live in that tension. I will tell the truth of it, and I will live it out. And if you are in that sense, these people tend to create actually a lot more happiness for themselves and a lot more satisfaction, right? But it's a tough space to be because, like I said, to own this is to be in suffering. It is incredibly difficult for you to have a deep passion and to also recognize that you can't do it. You can, but the more passionate you feel about something, the more you beat yourself up actually about like, I want to help the poor, but I also struggle with my own selfishness. I'm also not that generous with myself. You see, the thing is, if you can admit to that gap, you also learn something. You learn how to be humble. You learn, if you can own that about yourself, you will probably treat someone else with equal humility because you know you are not perfect. You have a gap as well. And when you see someone else with a gap, you don't look down on them. And what is most beautiful when you own that gap between should be and are is that you create a space called compassion. What does compassion mean? So, if you are in passion, you will open up this gap for yourself. Yes? Now, when you go to someone and you talk very, very deeply, passionately about how you think things should be, and you also talk with equal conviction and humility about how things are, I guarantee you, you create a space for someone else to enter that conversation in and confess, you know what? Me too. I'm so glad you said that because me too. I see how I share that passion for how things should be, and I'm also struggling. I don't know how to do it. I'm making this mistake here and there. And when 2 people or 3 people are gathered who can say that to each other, that's actually where opportunity happens. Compassion. So we talked about how passion means to suffer. Compassion actually means to suffer together. That's what compassion really means. Suffering together. It means I'm able to meet somebody in that same space and say, I've got my passions, I also have some pains. You've got your passions, you also got your pains. How can we help each other solve that together? The fascinating thing is, as long as the world is full of pains and passions, you will never ever run out of opportunity. You won't. What is business? What is business? Business is essentially you solving someone's pain. That's all it is. And you just figured out a price tag for it. That's all business is. We talk a lot about like, oh no, like is there opportunity for me if I graduate from poly, if I graduate from university and all that kind of stuff, right? And there are some practical realities about it. But the truth is, If you are someone who is always in search for where are the pains in the world, where are the pains in the world? And what are my passions? And can I find a place for them to meet? Then you will always see business opportunity or volunteering opportunity. You cannot stop seeing opportunities. You can't. We like to tell our kids that every complaint that you hear in Singapore is full of complaints. Every complaint that you hear is a niche market waiting to happen. Someone is in pain, and they're waiting for someone in passion to come and solve it. Business can also be about passion. If you can hear someone's passion, oh, we love to do this, we love to do that, but oh, just cannot find a place to do it. There you go. Do you have the passion to meet them there? Sometimes you don't know what is the impact you can possibly create. Sometimes you're just sort of like, it's a shot in the dark. I hope when I do this, it is of benefit to someone and I don't get immediate feedback on it. And maybe the temptation is, why bother to do it? Why bother? Where's the impact? Right? But you never know. So, should you follow your passions? You should. You should. But I will warn you, your passions will cost you. It will cost you. But I think there is a greater cost that we have to bear in mind. That the greater cost of not following your passions is a tremendous world of possibilities that you open, not just for yourself. Following your passions does open up possibilities for yourself. We all know that nobody wants to, like on their dying deathbed think like, darn it, I should have played the drums. So yes, following your passion is about fulfilling a certain deep, profound satisfaction that you just need to pursue. But your passions should be followed also because locked in your passions are possibilities for other people. You don't need to impact 100 people if you can, even in the following of your passions, impact just the one. It is more than enough in my book. I didn't include this in the slide, but I always tell young people, like if they are like wrestling and debating with me like about following their passions and being practical and all that, and I always tell them, look, this is one truth I know that cuts across all boundaries. Every single one of you in this room, I'm sorry, you will die. You will die. It's a fact. It's a fact we don't like to talk about or think about, but it's true. You're going to die. And you don't even know when you're going to die. It could be tomorrow. I could go home tonight and then I'll die of a heart attack. I don't know. And you're like, why are we talking about death? But if you talk about death and you think about death, I think it makes life a lot clearer. And some of us wait for like, die must wait until like, oh, kena cancer, then what do I want out of life? You don't need to wait till then, okay? I can tell you right now, you're going to die, you don't know when, you might as well start figuring out how you want to live. Why wait for the moment the death sentence is told to you very clearly, then you decide? Decide now. Your passions do matter. Don't let anyone tell you it doesn't. Go and read all of those wonderful articles I said about why following your passion can sometimes be dysfunctional. Yes, read those articles. But at the same time, don't let someone say it doesn't matter. But don't just follow your passions. You shouldn't follow your passions. Master your passions. Never let your passion master you. You master your passion. And more than that, don't just master your passion and then that's it. But mature it. Mature a passion into a compassion. Because only when you master it and you mature it into a compassion, that is when you will find opportunity. If all you do is follow your passion, you might actually not find opportunity. Opportunity is found in compassion. So my wish for all of you is that you will create a space of compassion for each other. Yeah, thank you.